The Chicago Bears completely dominated the Atlanta Falcons with Justin Fields having one of the best games of his career. We're going to deep dive into it. I'm Alexis Jade, and this is the Shecago Bears. Welcome back, everybody. It has been a hot minute. I am happy to be back, especially happy to be back after a Bears win. It goes without saying that this was probably one of the best games of Justin Fields' career. Of course, we're going to talk about that throughout the episode, but overall, I mean, what a game. The Bears just had total control of that game for the entirety of all four quarters. There was no fourth quarter choke. Overall, defense dominated, offense dominated, and I think as a Bears fans, you have to come away happy. I can see that since the game, the media narrative surrounding Justin Fields and, well, the Bears in general, but especially Justin Fields, has definitely shifted. I do find it interesting how week to week it changes, but, you know, everyone is allowed to change their opinion. But overall, a lot of good things came from this game, especially important heading into the final game of the season against the Green Bay Packers. Now, obviously, the Bears did end up getting knocked out of the playoffs, which sucks because we still had a very small chance of making the playoffs by winning that game against the Cardinals, or by winning that game against the Falcons. But unfortunately, we did end up getting eliminated. However, huge stakes coming up against this game with the Packers. So season is not over. We still have one more win that we need to squeak out, and it does matter, and we're going to talk about it. But first, let's recap this last game. Overall, it was a great game. The defense played great. They played lights out. I think they had 4 turnovers. Yeah, let's count. Wait. Kyler Gordon, TJ Edwards, and Tyreek Stevenson had 2. So yes, 4 interceptions in this game from the Bears defense. We know the past few weeks the Bears defense has done a complete 180 and has transformed into one of the best defenses in the entire league. Not just the secondary, the linebacker core, the front 7 getting pressure on the quarterback since we've added Montez Sweat. And in general, this defense has stopped the run, they've limited the passing game, and they've kind of been an all-around unstoppable defense. So going into this game, it's safe to say we kind of expected them to be able to get a few takeaways, but takeaways are never a guarantee. However, it seems like we're coming away with 3 to 4 takeaways a game, which is just crazy. I think the last stat I looked at, the defense has 20 takeaways in 7 games. That's not something to mess with. I actually ended up getting into a little Twitter debate with a Packers fan on the Bears defense because Packers fans on Twitter seem to have a different opinion than Packers fans I talk to in real life. Living in Wisconsin, I talk to Packers fans all day, every day. But I kind of talked to that person about how the defense having 20 takeaways doesn't just mean we're good at taking the ball away. It means we're getting pressure on the quarterback. We're getting sacks. We are making it difficult for the quarterback to do their job efficiently. It also means we're stopping the run game when you look at our run stats as well. Well, stopping the run stats. And our secondary is playing aggressive to the ball. So all those things combined, it's not even just the amount of takeaways that's impressive. It's the fact that if we're having 20 takeaways in 7 games, our defense all around is doing something right. So needless to say, the defense had another great game. My hair just got caught in my microphone here. The defense had another great game, and it's great momentum going into this game against Green Bay. Speaking of momentum going into Green Bay, the offense had a great game on Sunday. Justin Fields had probably one of the best games of his entire career. He had like 5 big-time throws, and that's not just personal opinion. I think it was PFF that reported that Justin Fields had 5 high-difficulty, big-time throws this game. And, I mean, he had the shot to DJ Moore in the back corner that we all saw. He had he had 2 more to DJ Moore across, maybe it was 3 to DJ Moore across the middle. There was 2 sideline throws that he made. There was the 2 to Tyler Scott that could have been caught that weren't, but they were dimes. Justin Fields was cooking. And honestly, one of my most impressive plays from him from the game wasn't even any of those highlight throws. It was actually a throw that he made to, who was the receiver on that play? I think it might have been Herbert or Johnson. And he was trying to escape. I think it was a designed rollout, but no one was open. So he gave the threat to the defense like he was going to run it himself. And then right before he got to the line of scrimmage, he did a little sidearm toss and got the first down. And I'm not saying he's Patrick Mahomes, but I'm saying how often have we seen quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes make that play and people go, whoa, he's 1 in a million, only he can do this. And Justin Fields has a few of those a season. And obviously you would like to see more and see him become someone like a Patrick Mahomes, but that's a whole other story. But I mean, he was looking like a top 5 quarterback this game. I'm not saying he is a top 5 quarterback right now, but you cannot argue that this game, he was looking like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And that's coming off of a few strong performances by him. Not all of them were incredible. I still think he's held back a little bit by Luke Getsy's play calling. But you have to give credit where credit's due, and Luke Getsy called a good game this past Sunday. I don't know what finally ignited in him or what discussions him and Fields or maybe front office had with Getsy that finally got the playbook changed. But we were finally using our weapons. We were using our offensive line that is mobile to move the pocket. We weren't forcing Fields into consistent drop back passing scenarios against a heavy pass rush. We were allowing our running backs to move the chains. We were establishing the perimeter. We were establishing play action. We were using the threat of Justin Fields' legs to then also allow him to move outside of the pocket to chuck the ball downfield. We were using slants and wheel routes, and we were actually attacking the middle of the field. It was great. I don't know what happened, but Luke Getsy had an awakening, and I just cross my fingers and I pray that that awakening continues to next week against Green Bay, and it doesn't resort back to stuff that wasn't working. But it's definitely great momentum heading into this week against Green Bay. Now, of course, another piece of big news that came out against when we were playing the Atlanta Falcons was that the Bears got the number 1 pick. It's obviously been rumored this whole season. I predicted we might not get it, and I came close. The Carolina Panthers did end up squeaking out, I think, 2 wins. I thought they were going to get at least one more and just knock us just shy of the first pick and get us the second, but they ended up just being an absolutely terrible team, and we got the number 1 pick for the second year in a row, and we could finish 8-9 on the season and still be drafting number 1 overall. So we got the number 1 overall pick. We may finish our record 8-9 and still get the number 1 pick going into the draft, which is just crazy. I don't even know if that's ever happened before, or if it has, it's very, very rare. So lots to talk about, and we will dive into all of it in this off season and get all into the QB debate, into other positions and who might be extended, who might get let go, who might be traded. You know, we'll dive into all of that in this off season, but right now we're just talking this past game and this week against Green Bay because we're staying in the present moment. We have one more game of the season, then we could talk about all the afterthought when the season's over. Now, obviously, as it stands, the Lions are the division champions this season, which is kind of crazy to think because, of course, this is a game of what ifs, right? But the Detroit Lions actually were not that great against us. We beat them the second time around. We should have beaten them the first time around if we didn't choke up like 20 points in the fourth quarter. But the Lions, I think, are finishing their record with 11 wins, and had the Bears, now this is where the what ifs come into play, but had the Bears won against Denver when they had the lead up until the fourth quarter, the Lions the first time around when they had the lead up until the fourth quarter, and the Browns when they had the lead up until the fourth quarter, if we won all 3 of those games, we would have the same record as the Lions right now, and we would actually be 1 game ahead because that 1 win the Lions have would be a win for us. So they would be 10 wins and we would be at 11 and we would win the division. That's how crazy this season has been. And I think obviously that's just the game of football and there are going to be ones you should have won and you didn't. But it's crazy to think that here we are talking about having the number 1 overall pick, talking about potentially drafting a quarterback, and yet we were almost the division champions going into the playoffs. And even if we didn't get all 3 of those as wins, even if we only won 2 or 1 of those wins, we would be going into the playoffs. It's just crazy how this season turned out, and I think it's crazy to think that this team is so close to contending. I think next year they will be Super Bowl contenders. Maybe saying Super Bowl is a stretch, but I genuinely think we should be, no excuses, a playoff team. I mean, obviously barring injury, you never know, but assuming we don't get rippled with really bad season-ending injuries next year, knock on wood, we should be a playoff contender team. And I think with the talent we had, if we were in the playoffs this year, we would be a playoff team people do not want to face with how hot we are right now. If we keep that going into next year and we win the division, we could be looking at potential Super Bowl contention. And that's a huge jump. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying that's how drastic this team has changed since last year, which is crazy. And credit to Ryan Poles. But I think that it's crazy how much this team has turned around, and I'm really excited for the future. But that being said, we still have a lot of holes to fill in this roster, because I think the reason that we aren't going to the playoffs this year is because we had some, I mean, there's many reasons, right? Team chemistry, coaching, all of that, but there are some holes we still need to fill, and that's where that number one pick is interesting, because then you talk about drafting quarterback, but then you talk about trading that number one pick for a draft haul, even bigger than we had last year, and still potentially getting another top 10 draft pick next year, depending on who we trade with. It's very interesting. The season is going to be, I mean, honestly, for all the debate and all the controversy online with the Bears Twitter world, this season is going to be probably one of the best seasons, off seasons, I should say, in Shecago Bears history. I mean, what we have at our disposal is just absolutely crazy, and I'm super excited about it. So, all that being said, Lions have the division, but we still have a divisional game to play, and that is this week against the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field. The Packers need this one win to get into the playoffs. If we beat them, they still have a chance to make it. I believe the Giants have to win, and I forget who the other team is that needs to win in order for the Lions to make, or the Packers to make it in. But we definitely make their life a lot harder and almost guarantee them a shot out of playoff contention if we beat them this Sunday. As we all know as Bear fans, the Bears do not have a good recent track record against the Packers. We have not beaten them since 2018. That was the years of Mitchell Trubisky with our elite defense. And the funny thing is, we're going into this game a completely different team than we were week one. So are the Packers. But we are going into this game a completely different team than we were week one, especially our defense has become an elite defense. And I think it's going to be a very close matchup. So let's dive into our Green Bay versus Shecago Bears takes for this week's matchup. So first off, we're going to go Shecago Bears offense against the Green Bay Packers defense. Like I mentioned earlier, Justin Fields and the Shecago Bears offense are coming off of a hot win against Atlanta. And it wasn't just a win, but it was an amazing performance by Justin Fields and the offense as a whole. The play calling was great. So the hope is that can continue into this week. The one big difference here is Atlanta was a top 10 defense. So the funny thing is where this gets a little flip-floppy is Green Bay's defense is not very good. Bryce Young, I think, scored 30 points against them. Their defense is not good, and Joe Barry is the bane of existence for Packers fans right now. And looking at that on paper, it should be an easy 30 points for the Bears offense. However, the Packers defense plays zone scheme. And we know that man coverage is Justin Fields' strength. Now, do I think some people are blowing this out of proportion a little bit with Justin Fields not being able to play against man? Yes, Justin Fields can play against man. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the Commanders was I believe the Commanders was a zone defense as well as, who was the other team? I don't recall, but Justin Fields did have 2 good games this year against zone teams. The thing that zone does is it takes away the ability for Justin Fields to escape out of the pocket more. And that's because when he sees man coverage, he either knows my receiver's open and I can make the throw, or because the defenders are on their man, it opens up some running lanes for Justin Fields to scramble. Now, zone coverage does turn their back a little bit towards the quarterback because it does allow Justin Fields, because they're playing zone, they're a little bit further back off the line. That allows Justin Fields to have a little bit more leeway when he does want to scramble. However, it comes down to rhythm and timing of the offense, which obviously in the past Justin Fields has struggled a little bit with getting his throws out on time. And It more so for me scares me with Getsy is, can he scheme properly? And we'll talk about that in a minute. But part of Getsy's scheme and game planning is, I've noticed people talking about why Justin Fields' dropbacks look faster in practice clips, but then in the game they're slower. And that's because he's timing his dropback to the route of his receivers. And Getsy's offense, one of the main faults, I think, of this offense for the quarterback is it's all about the feel of the game, because it's based off of Aaron Rodgers, who was a vet in this league, one of the best to ever do it. As much as I don't like him, he was. And Justin Fields is 24 years old and only in his third season in the NFL. He doesn't have that veteran feel to the game like Aaron Rodgers did. So Fields is getting better by building the chemistry with his teammates to know the feel and timing of the routes, thank you, Finn, of his receivers. But that's why his dropbacks look a little slower. And if the routes are taking longer to develop, his dropback is going to be slower so he can time properly with those receivers. Now, what that means is our offensive line has to hold up strong. So I am a little bit nervous for that aspect. However, at the end of the day, this defense is not very good. So we should be able to at least score points on them. I'm not saying we're going to go out and score 36 points like we did last week, but we should at the very least be able to get a few points on the board and hope that our defense can continue to play lights out and keep the Packers to a low scoring game. Now, obviously, Luke Getsy's play calling comes in question here. Week 1, he was ill-prepared. He had Justin Fields doing just straight drop-back passes every freaking snap, and our offensive line did not hold up. It was a battle of the trenches, and we lost. Our offensive line could not hold up. Now, Tevin Jenkins was out. I think Lucas Patrick was out, or he got injured during the game, but we have a stronger offensive line going into this week, but we do need them to hold their ground. We need the trenches to stay strong and give Justin Fields some time to throw from the pocket, give those receivers times for those routes to develop. Because if we want to take shots downfield, those shots don't develop in 2 seconds. We need to allow time for those receivers to streak downfield and get open, which means our offensive line has to hold up. And I really think one of the keys is to take deep shots downfield. That is Justin Fields' strength. That is the offensive strength. And I think we need to continue to build off what we did last week and use the run. The Green Bay Packers defense does not have a good run-stop defense, so if we can really run hard against them and establish around the perimeters, because I think that's where their weaknesses lie, we can start to build off the momentum and the game plan we had last week and incorporate it to what we do this week against the Packers. My biggest concern with Getsy is his adjustments. Matt LaFleur tends to have a much better job doing adjustments mid-game. Luke Getsy does not. So I'm also partially nervous that we come out in the first half looking good and we kind of collapse in the second half due to play calling and scheme. But overall, I'm just going to go off the highs of last week and hope and pray that we come to this game prepared and much more prepared than we did week 1. And honestly, I'm kind of banking on, no matter what the situation is, this is Justin Fields' last game of the season. There's so much uncertainty surrounding him, and I know it's hard on him. So just go out there and play lights out, Justin. Just don't give an F. Don't worry about the turnovers. Don't worry about, playing perfect football. Just go out there and play backyard football like you know how to and ball the F out. And I kind of think that's what he started to do last week, and he looked great. So I'm just hoping that that continues this week. And he gets a little help from his wide receivers, his tight ends, his running backs, his offensive line, and his play calling. Now, who is injured on the Bears offense? Right now, it is looking like DJ Moore was on the injury report. However, he is no longer listed. He looks like a full participant. No worries there. Cole Kmet was DNP, then he was limited, and then on Friday he was full, so it looks like he should be back in full swing on this game on Sunday. Lucas Patrick was on the injury report, limited on Friday. I think it was a calf or a back, but I'm hoping that that's all precautionary and he should be good to go. But obviously, he's not the best player on the field, but at the end of the day, you want the center in that's been playing with Justin the whole season, so I would prefer Lucas Patrick to be in the game this Sunday. Also, he's an ex-Packer, so I know he wants to be out there. Darnell Mooney has probably had his last game as a Shecago Bear. He is DNP, and he has been ruled out for this game. And unfortunately, this is one of the topics we can dive into in a later episode, but it does look like Darnell Mooney might have played his last game as a Shecago Bear. And Khalil Herbert was listed as limited, and then DNP, the limited was due to back, and then the DNP was due to personal. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe he has some personal stuff going on. Maybe his back is fine now. But I hope that whatever the situation is, he is all good and he is able to play on Sunday, because having a duo with Herbert back there and Roschon Johnson and Justin Fields would be great for this Bears offense. But I think we can still get by. We still have Foreman. There was some drama surrounding him a bit last week, so I don't know what the situation is there. But hopefully having those guys on the field, I'm not too worried about our running back room, but I would love Herbert to be back out there because he was just starting to get hot again. So my keys to victory on offense for this game is Luke Getsy. Call a good game. Don't get too screen heavy. Don't attack, because I think the first game we attacked way too much the horizontal game, way too many screens, and we had Justin Fields just sit back in a pocket with an offensive line that was not blocking. We cannot do that again. I think we start out hot like we did against Atlanta. We need to take shots downfield right away. We need to establish the run game on the perimeter, use it to establish some play action, have Justin Fields use the threat of his legs to then get the defense to bite, to then take more shots with Justin Fields' arm downfield. I think at the root cause of it, don't try to be too trickery. Don't try to overthink it. Do what works for Justin Fields, for the playmakers on this offense. Put DJ Moore in the slot and move him around as you have to go up against Jair Alexander. Whoa. To do what you have to do against Jair Alexander. Wow, I'm really struggling to say his name, but you know what I mean. So don't try to get too crazy. Just be smart and do what works. Fields in this offense just need to continue the momentum they've built the last few games and do it again this week. Don't regress. Don't get too in your head. That's not just talking about Justin Fields. That's everyone on this team on the offense. Go out there and play lights out like your life depends on it, because this is a rivalry game. You can knock the Packers out of the playoffs. This is good for your personal tape, and have some carryover to show that this offense has really grown and improved. And on top of that, this defense is going to try to stop Justin Fields from scrambling or the Justin Fields run game by designed runs. So that means Justin Fields is going to have to play some of the time in the pocket, play in rhythm, but we also are going to need our receivers to get open. We're going to need our offensive line to block, and we're going to need to establish the run game, because I think the biggest weakness on this Packers team is their run stop defense. So if we can get our run game going and then just incorporate some play action and deep shots downfield, our offense should be cooking. It's not too terrible of a game plan to have to figure out. All you have to do is attack their weakness and go from there and play to our strengths. So hopefully our coaching staff can do that. But overall, those are my key points for our offense to dominate this Packers defense. And let's hope and pray that that works. Now, our Packers offense versus our Shecago Bears defense. Once again, another good matchup. Our Shecago Bears defense is coming off of a very hot series of the last month or two. Like I said earlier, 20 takeaways in 7 games. Then we're getting a lot of sacks, a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Our linebackers are diagnosing and attacking that football, and our secondary is going in hot. So this is going to be a big matchup for this Green Bay offense, but this Green Bay offense is also on a hot streak. They've been playing really well. They have Matt LaFleur calling the plays at the Realms, which you know is always going to have some trick up his sleeves and always is going to be able to adjust in game. So Matt Eberflus has to be on his toes on how he attacks this quarterback. Now, I do think the center for the Packers, I think I saw I forget what his rating was, but he had a very, very low blocking grade for this past week. And if you watch the tape, he was not very good in the pocket. Protecting the pocket, I guess. And if the Bears can get pressure up the middle with some people coming around the edge, you can easily get some pressure on Jordan Love, cause him to make some mistakes, and our secondary could take advantage of that and attack the football. Now, we also need to stop the run. We have, I think, the second best or the best run stop defense in the entire league, and we need that to continue. We need to protect the run game because Lord knows they have an established run game, so we need to stop it in its tracks, make them play Jordan Love from the pocket. Not saying he's not good, because he's on a good streak right here. However, take away one of their strengths, because if you watch the game last week, It's not like Jordan Love was making all these crazy deep shots downfield and making these crazy athletic throws. I mean, I think he had less passing yards than Justin Fields. He just had some playmakers making plays. So we need to stop their strength, force the quarterback and the receivers to be making plays downfield, and let our secondary and linebacker core attack that football and get some takeaways. So some keys to victory this week for the Bears defense, get some takeaways. Obviously, that's a given. We haven't had a problem with that the past few games. We've been excelling in that, but that can't stop this week. We can't run cold this week. We need to keep the pedal on the gas, and we need to get at least 1 to 2 takeaways this game. Take some confidence out of the Packers offense, get the crowd out of the game, and get the momentum on our side and get some takeaways, get some pressure and sacks on Jordan Love, the quarterback. Like I mentioned earlier, we need to stop the run. That is probably the strongest part of their game right now. So we need to stop the run, limit their scheme and play potential on offense by limiting one of their strongest suits, which is the run game. Get pressure on Love, get Montez Sweat involved, attack that center position, get some people on the outside, Javon Dexter, and just attack Jordan Love. Get pressure on him, cause him to make some off-platform throws, and let our secondary attack that football. Biggest one, keep them to under 20 points. The Packers offense, I think, has been scoring around 20, 30 points a game recently. The Bears defense has been allowing 20 points or less a game. And in the games where we've allowed 20 or more points, we've lost. However, in those games we've lost, we were dominating all 4 quarters, and we choked at the very end of the game in the 4th quarter, and the defense gave up a last-minute touchdown and allowed them to score over 20 points. So it's not like we were ever really trailing from behind. We choked and gave up the lead. So all that being said, we need to limit the Packers offense to 20 points or lower, get them uncomfortable, make them have to play catch up, and really just limit their scoring potential. Now, another key point here is who is healthy on our defense? Well, pretty much everyone except Kyler Gordon found his way onto the injury report on Friday with limited participant with his calf. Now, once again, he was limited, so hopefully that means he's still good to go on Sunday. He was ruled as questionable, so it's hard to say, but hoping that it was just a little tweak and they're playing it safe, and after a rest day today, he will be able to be good to go for Sunday's game. And ties with that is Jalen Johnson was DNP all week on the injury report. He did go on 670 The Score and say he's 100% playing this week. That was on Thursday, I believe. But obviously, at the end of the day, that decision is not on him. It's on the medical staff for the Bears. So if they deem him not suitable to play, he's not going to play. He's been dealing with a shoulder injury. He's been ruled doubtful, but he's not been ruled out. So it's not looking great, but it's also still a possibility he plays. I really hope he plays. If we're out both Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson, that really changes a lot of things for the secondary. It does make me way more nervous than I would have been about this defense. I do have faith in our backups in our secondary. We have some good rookies. We have Tyreek Stevenson, and we have some good backups in our secondary. However, obviously your 2 starters who have been playing lights out football being out would be a massive blow to this defense. So here's to crossing and hoping our fingers that they are in on Sunday. Biggest takeaway overall, all sides of the football. I forgot to mention special teams, but obviously special teams, don't turn the ball over on kick returns or punts, and do a better job kicking the football, Trenton Gill, because we've had some wonky kicks recently. And Cairo Santos, just keep doing what you do because you're a beast. Now, biggest takeaways for this game. Do not choke in the 4th quarter. It needs to be pedal on the gas all 4 quarters. We cannot let them come back. We cannot take our foot off the gas. We cannot run the football and try to run the clock down when there's still 6 minutes left of the 4th quarter. We keep the consistent game plan. We attack the field. We do deep shots downfield. I don't care if you're risking a turnover. You cannot take your foot off the gas. We do not choke at the end of this game. We have to finish all 4 quarters of this football game. And the defense cannot allow some points coming at the last minute in hurry-up offense, or towards the end of the 4th quarter, we cannot allow them to make a chance to catch up if we're in the lead. And if we're not in the lead and we're trailing by a touchdown or a field goal, we cannot allow the Packers offense to get hot in the fourth quarter. We need to keep our foot on the gas on offense and defense and close out this game. Overall, I think this is going to be a pretty good matchup. I think Bears fans are nervous. I think Packers fans are nervous. And I really think this game could go either way. It might come down to the turnover battle. It might come down to the injury reports. It might just come down to an absolute shootout. Who knows? I would like to pick the Bears for my prediction this week. I mean, when you look at it, we played the Lions and Minnesota. We lost the first game. We beat them the second time. Granted, we should have won both those games the first time. However, we do have a history this season of losing the first division game and coming back and winning the second one. We lost the first one. Hopefully we can come back and win the second one. We looked like a totally different team week one, and we are completely reformed going into this game against Green Bay, so I do have higher hopes, but I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. And part of me, the ever optimist with the Shecago Bears, was going to pick them for a win, but on top of not wanting to jinx it, I also personally feel until the Bears proven they can beat the Green Bay Packers, I simply cannot pick them as favorites. I kind of think they need to prove to me that they can win, because the fact we haven't beat them since 2018 is just embarrassing. And until they beat them, and if they can beat them in Lambeau and knock them out of the playoffs, then hell yeah, I'm going to be predicting the Bears to win every week, regardless of injury report. But they need to prove it to me first. So, unfortunately, this week, I do have the score 24-21 Packers. I think it's going to be very close. I think the Bears stay in the game, and I think the Packers squeak out the win. However, I would absolutely love to be proven wrong, and part of me kind of thinks I will be, but for the sake of history, I have to pick the Packers here, but I do really hope I'm proved wrong, and I hope the Bears come out and absolutely dominate this football game. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you did, please subscribe, please like, share it on any social medias that you have. I would greatly appreciate it. I will be live tweeting during the game on Sunday like I always do. And thank you guys for watching. I will be here in Wisconsin rooting and screaming from the rooftops for the Bears. So hopefully they don't embarrass me and they come out with the victory. And we have a post-game victory podcast for you on Monday. But thank you guys for watching. I'm Alexis Jade, and this has been the Shecago Bears.